and welcome to Shoreline Music Monthly. My name is Mark Koschwitz. This is episode 45 of our series of shining the spotlight on local musicians. We're also going to hopefully have, it's usually they're recorded ahead of time, this time it's not, but a cabinet of curiosities to fit into this show, profiling the Indian Santoor, or as some claim, maybe the Persian Santoor. There seems to be a little controversy about its origin, which always just makes it a little more interesting to me. As I mentioned, we're on episode 45, so this spring we're going to hit episode 50. So I think that's a big deal. If looking to turn it into something memorable, if anyone out there has any thoughts or ideas on what we should do, feel free to drop us a line at Shoreline Music Monthly at Gmail. And just looking for, I don't know, maybe something I wouldn't think of on my own. Episode 45, we're very happy to have with us a local singer-songwriter from Westbrook. Very happy to welcome to the show tonight, Del Griffith. Del?
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Glad you could make it. Our hurricane turned out to be a little less than advertised, so we're actually taping the night of Jose, so this is good. So why don't you just maybe tell us a little, how long you've been doing this? What made you decide to start writing songs?
Well, as far as being a musician, I've been a musician since, I don't know, preteen, something like that, when I first picked up a guitar. Just like everybody else, practiced, got into bands. Those bands didn't work out, moved on to the next band, so on and so forth. But as far as a singer-songwriter thing, I just started doing that about maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And I had always been doing that on the side besides my bands, because I wrote a lot for the bands that I was in and so forth and so on. And I was doing the metal thing for a while. I was a metal singer, actually. And I actually opened up for a couple of my metal bands doing my acoustic thing, which was kind of interesting to watch the crowd respond to that.
One of our most recent guests, we had Opus on, who was in Gargantua Soul and is now in Dead by Wednesday.
Yep.
And he bangs on the drums in a metal band as his main thing, but he, very talented singer-songwriter, writes acoustic stuff too. So that's. I don't know if he's ever tried to open for Dead by Wednesday, though.
Well, actually, at one point with the band, we tried to get Dead by Wednesday's attention. They actually came out to check us out. It didn't work out quite so well. But yeah, I'm very familiar with them and Gargantua and Soul. I used to actually go check out those two bands on a regular basis.
Yeah, they've been on the scene a while.
Yeah.
So, do you still play a little metal?
No. When I record, I don't usually record in any specific style. I'll just record what I feel. So if it's a blues song or a metal song, and then from that point, I'll gather up what I need to do as far as an acoustic or a folk rock kind of a feel.
Is all down, the bed is all cold. They have found what this was about. When the chips are down, the bed is all cold. They have found what this was about. Stay with me now. Sunshine, grabbing for breath of air, walking down a fine line. No one seems to care, and you for a nickel, still you for a dime. Just another wrinkle, just another crime. When the chips are down, the bell is all cold. They have found what this was about. When the chips are down, the bell is all cold. They have found what this was about. Deep on a riddle, sucker born every day. They play you like a fiddle if they have their way. When the chips are down and the love is worn out, they have found what this was about. Chips are down, the bells are cold. They have found what this was about. When the chips are down, when the chips are down, when the chips are down, when the chips come falling so far down.
You did release an album just a couple years ago, right?
Yes, it was my very first solo album, and it was a collaboration of about 100 songs. I whittled it down to 50, and then I whittled it down finally to the 21 or 23 I have on the album. I don't remember how many it is, and I kind of almost wanted to hold back and only just release 10 or 12, but I wanted to get them out there, and it took me a long time to get it all together because I'm a father, you know, I got a family, and, you know, you got to work, and you got so much time to do things, and then I had the band thing going on as well, trying to do something with that, so
Yeah, it's a
trying to
juggling
gather it
act.
all up, yeah, and finally got it all together, and finally put the album together, so it was a big thing for me, a big epiphany.
Great. And so now you're working on your second
Right,
solo
Quest,
album.
Quest for Sunshine, and that's going to be released next month.
Oh, very cool.
Like October 15th or so, somewhere around there. I'm just putting the finishing touches on now.
So have you done the song whittling already?
Yeah. I wish I had more, but you know, it goes how it goes. So I always write in bursts, at least for myself. You know, to be times where when I first started songwriting, I stayed up for about 4 or 5 days straight, and one after another just kept coming out. And
Wow.
Yeah, and there's had to be about 30 or 40 songs written during that period of time alone. And then other times they pop up once in a while, and then other times I'll wake up from sleeping and I got this great idea and I got to get it down. And
So with you, it's more the flash of inspiration. Do you ever just sit down like I'm going to write a song, or?
yeah, but sometimes that works out, sometimes it doesn't. It's always every song's an individual. Every song's a different baby, so to speak. Sometimes it'll take me 9 months to finish a song. With my last band, we had a song that I wrote called Careful. And it was a very popular song, but it took us about 10 months to finish the thing.
Wow.
Just kept on picking at it. Another one's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it just pops out, and it just seems to flow together and, you know, sounds like something that I want to listen to over and over again. Because as an artist, I'm the guy who's got to listen to it 10,000 times over and over again, and if I'm not absolutely happy with it, ecstatic, there's no way I'm going to let anybody else hear it.
Yeah, and once you record them, you know, that kind of makes it a static thing now.
Yep.
You've said this is what the song is.
Right.
So.
And even then, it still evolves.
Yeah.
As you play it more and more live, it starts to evolve on its own, and little tricks, maybe keynotes, higher on a keynote here, lower on a keynote there, that you didn't normally play it like that originally.
Catch your ear and
Right,
get
keeps
added to
developing,
it.
yeah.
Very nice.
government division on her cries, on human vision can't cover the lie. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Ashes to ashes, gone with the ghost. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Ashes to ashes. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Ashes to ashes, gone with the ghost. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Ashes to ashes. Dust to dust, ashes to ashes, gone with the ghost. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, ashes to ashes. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, ashes to ashes, gone with the ghost. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, ashes to ashes.
Hello and welcome to Cabinet of Curiosities. This episode, we are going to look at the Santoor, an instrument from a very long time ago, comes from very far away. There are some who feel it is of Indian origin, which is actually where the one in the cabinet was made, but there seems to be more evidence to support Persian origin. Actually, as far back as 1600 BC in Mesopotamia, now modern-day Iraq. So, what is it? It's a chordophone, which means that it is an instrument that produces music by vibrating strings, but it is also a percussion instrument because it gets those strings to vibrate because they have been struck by mallets. And if you're familiar with the inside of a piano, where a mechanism causes the key that's depressed for a mallet to strike a string, you'll understand why the Santoor is considered the grandpappy of the piano, as well as the harpsichord. And of course, being that old, through trade and travel, it's made its way around the globe. each region kind of personalizing it. This is an Indian Santoor, and it's has less of an angle, I guess, than a Persian Santoor, but it's also made its way throughout the world. In China, it is known as a Yangqing. Germany has the Hackbrett. In Hungary, there's a cymbalam. And in the U.S., variant of it is known as the hammered dulcimer. So let's take a look at exactly how it's set up. Okay, the strings are run in courses. There's so many variations, bear with me. Sometimes 3, sometimes 4. Typically, but not always, tuned in unison. There can be as few as 24 individual strings and over 100 at the other end of the spectrum. They're looped end strings, and they start on one side. They're hooked over a peg, then they're run across, again, typically 2 sets of bridges alternating. So the strings only actually go over one bridge or the other. In a 2/3, 1/3 ratio, many times people will play only the longer 2/3 piece of it that you can access through the middle, but it's quite often, again, depending on the variant, where the 1/3 is tuned as well, and it just gives you more octaves. They then come down on the other side to the tuning pegs, row after row of tuning pegs. This particular instrument has 93 strings, which was a joy to tune. And tuning really is where it all blows up, because not only does it vary regionally, but it also varies performer to performer as well, as they tune it in their preference. And India, where the one in the cabinet is from, or Persia, where the idea was born, they have a very different idea of music and scales and structure than what most of us in the West are familiar with. They often will tune in quarter step increments, where in Western music we don't really do that. Think of the distance of one guitar fret or neighboring keys on a piano keyboard. They are a half tone apart. And also in India, where this is from, typically it is most used to play rags. And rags are each contain their own scale, so they're actually tuned to the rag that the performer will be playing, and then retuned if he's going to play another rag, which 93 strings on this one. They are very patient. So to make it a little easier at least for me, to attempt to demonstrate the sound of it, I tried to figure out what tuning might work. So I did a little note mapping as to the string gauges and what I could do with it, to tune it into something I'm a little more familiar with. But what I settled on is actually the D blues scale to tune it to, so that at least you can hear what this sounds like. All right, well, it came to my attention there was no way I was actually going to be able to demonstrate the sound of this reaching up out of that chair, so I've reset a little. I didn't really play a lot of it during the history lesson, so I thought it'd be nice you could just hear a little bit. This is the side with the felt. And then with the wood, it gives it a little higher. And it allows the mallets to jump a little and bounce. And in Indian rags, which are fascinating on their own, and if you have any interest in non-Western music, you might find them fascinating. They don't really think of scales and the whole way that we in the West think of music. It's different a little. So they use a little bit of this to each rag has its own scale, and they introduce the notes individually, and some can only be played when you're going up a scale, and some can only be played when you're going down a scale. Fascinating stuff, but way too much to try and fit in here. But just to give you an idea of the sound. And to help maybe a little, I'm going to see if I can't maybe blend it in with a little something else, so it isn't just me clanging on stuff. Anyway, that's a really bad blues jam on the Indian Santoor. If you have any interest at all in this, the Santoor, the hammered dulcimer, or any other wild string thing, in this age of the internet, it's all out there. Take a look. It's fascinating stuff. Indian rags, also fascinating. It's just a treetops introduction kind of a thing. So, by all means, if it interests you, find out more. And again, remember, if you can coax a sound out of something, you could probably play it.
Hope in wanna dream. I wanna believe in something more. I wanna hope, I wanna dream. I wanna believe in something more. I wanna dream, I wanna hope. I wanna keep for something more.
All right, well, thank you once again for watching, and if you have any thoughts at all on how we should celebrate our 50th episode, it's coming up in the spring of 2018, and I'm pretty excited about it. So drop us a line, or just fling it over the Facebook page, whatever, Shoreline Music Monthly at gmail.com, or of course we're on Facebook at also Shoreline Music Monthly. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next month.